Director Borges, Chairman Ottman.
Yes.
Okay. So we need a nomination for vice chair. You guys, who was our vice chair last year?
I believe it was Darren.
Oh, Darren.
I'll second that one as well.
There you go. Okay.
You need someone to remind him to approve the invoice.
Right.
Oh, good.
Okay, let's call the vote.
Director Short,
Yes.
Director Schlong,
Yes.
Director Borges,
Yes.
Director Roberts,
Yes.
Chairman Ottman.
Yes. It's not true.
Oh, that's right.
And in the agenda.
There you go. That's just who's running. So Darren said to me last.
Stand right up, get out of the chair. Put it on the-
Oh, God.
And I'll have to say, you made a great chairperson.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, a little shaky there at first, because I didn't know to pay everybody.
Yeah, I didn't either.
Well, we don't know how to use Zoom either, so it works out. All right, so we got through, we're on consent agenda. So we have 3 items on the consent today, 5A, B, and C, B be in the minutes. And A and C are 2 grants. At our last meeting, which was an exciting one, we had a joint meeting with City Council to identify a site for our future transit center. So 5A is a grant that we submitted in collaboration with our partners in Humboldt County. Which our portion of, if we get fully funded, is pretty significant enough to build the transit center. And then 5C, and that's a TIRSIP grant, which is 0 local match, which is beautiful. And then 5C is a grant. It's a little more of a story behind that one, but 5C, we're coming up due to update our short range transit plan, which is our main guiding document for the agency. And the local transportation commission's kind of running low on planning funds, so they provided a little funding to us to engage a grant writer to go after this more robust source, which is the Caltrans Sustainable Transportation Planning Grant. So we've got Green Dot working on that, and the submittal date's like mid-March. So this would be a resolution approving us applying for both of them. 2 resolutions, 1 approving for each application.
Mr. Chairman, I move we approve the consent calendar.
Second.
I have a quick question. I thought I was at the last meeting.
You were,
Okay. So the minutes didn't reflect it.
oh,
Oh, that
okay.
was in my phone.
Okay, let's make a correction to the minutes. Yeah, that was the night where we had the short regular meeting, then we went into the longer joint meeting, yeah. Well, thank you, Kelly, it's a good one.
Thank you.
With that correction. I move we approve the consent calendar. So you call.
What, we have first, second, now we call for a vote.
Let's do it.
Director Altman,
Yes.
Director Schlong,
Yes.
Director Short,
Yes.
Director Roberts,
Yes.
Chairman Borges.
Yes.
Might be time to retire this old machine. It's no longer responding to my command. It won't turn the volume off. So yeah, please try to avoid swearing, although I'm probably the worst one in the room for doing that. Yeah, it won't shut off. Anyhow, that's what the echo is, and I'm gonna keep trying to play with it. I'm not sure what its problem is. No, I can't figure it out. Okay, I think that we're allowed now move into our annual strategic planning workshop, which is where we kind of take it. It's a great place for new board members to come in because we take a deeper dive into kind of our overall situation and some of the top issues that are challenging or facing the agency. So we've got 4 little presentations to get through. And then the item 6 is going to go very fast because we have an update on the year-to-date budget, but we weren't able to get the draft budget yet because we're a couple months ahead of when we usually do this workshop. So I do apologize. We thought we could maybe pull that together, but alas, it was not meant to be. We're going to move the order around a little bit because our consultant's not joined us yet for the South Oregon Humboldt non-emergency medical shuttle update, which is going to be a good one. So we'll move that back and start with the fleet challenges and impacts on staffing and budget presentation.
Is that the finance presentation? No, okay.
No, they all got the same theme. We're trying to be professional.
Cool.
Not exactly succeeding, but we're trying. Okay, this one is to talk about, there's a lot going on, and I'm sure there won't be a quiz at the end of this because there's a lot going on with the fleet and with the overall bus industry, but we wanted to let you know about it at least. And then get some direction on maybe a couple things that we can do to try to mitigate our situation. In the short run, we haven't got a new bus in service in 3.5 years. 3.25 at least. It was late in 19 before the pandemic when we were all much younger, is when we received our last new order of buses. That was a typical order. We got the money executed from Caltrans, and it took about a year to get the bus, maybe like 9 months, even maybe a little less than a year. That was then. This is now.
How often do we typically order buses?
To keep our fleet in good, not exceeding its useful life, we would need to replace 2 a year because we have 13 approximately vehicles, and they last about 6 years apiece. So obviously, we're not there right now. So that's why we're bringing this item to you to kind of explain what's going on. It impacts some of our operating costs. It impacts our maintenance team, for our team of 1 for sure. And we don't expect a real quick resolution to this. So what has happened? Initially, there's still some problems with Caltrans getting the grants executed in a timely manner. I don't believe that's actually related to the bus industry crisis. That's more just Caltrans, being Caltrans. But right now, the standard agreements, which once you're awarded particular money, whether it's discretionary, if it's just our annual apportionment of funding, we hear about it. That's great. But then we need to get a standard agreement, which is like a contract that has all 20 pages of Caltrans legalese, but it basically tells you the money you're going to get, the local match required, and how to request your reimbursement. That's been taking a really long time lately. Instead of maybe a few months, it's been taking like a year. It's not the biggest part of our problem, but it certainly doesn't help. In the old days, it took about 6 months for a standard agreement. It's been more like a year lately. So the process, just a few years ago, I'm talking about the good old days like an old man, but just a few years ago, we would get the money and then place our order, and then 6 to 9 months have the bus all within a year. That's not the case anymore. And as I mentioned to Darren's question, we need to get about 2 new buses in here a year to avoid the oldest ones getting older than about 7 years old, which is, we have a very difficult operating environment here. And Nick's going to help with this presentation, so you're going to hear more about that. But our vehicles, especially some buses made in the industry, like you see, if you go into an urban area, those buses will last 12 to 15 years. But our buses are what they call medium duty. They're not meant to last that long. They're much cheaper, which matches our lack of money, but it means we have to replace them more frequently. So the COVID probably had some impact maybe on the Caltrans staffing. That might have been, maybe we can blame that for the slowness in the agreements being processed. But there's more to it than that. So the bus industry has been struggling, especially the small niche of the industry that builds the buses that we buy. So for example, we ordered 3 buses in November of 2021. Those buses are not here yet. So that's been a year and a half. We do expect, we hope, we have our fingers crossed that 2 of them are going to arrive this spring. And the reason we were able to get them is, besides the fact that we've been whining about this and they know that our buses have been delayed horribly, is our bus dealer found a couple that were backed out of by another agency, so they ordered them. They were similar to what we want, not exactly, but pretty close. And they became available because someone else maybe, couldn't fulfill their order. So they asked if we'd take them. We're like, yeah, we'll take them. So those are hopefully coming, but that'll be our first two since, 3.5 years ago. We have, so the third one that we ordered in November 21, we don't even have a production date for yet. That's how backlogged Ford is. Ford is our brand of choice. The other North American bus manufacturers aren't much better. Ford is a lot of people's brand of choice for these vehicles, so they may be the most backed up, but it's not germane to just Ford. So we don't have a date for that one yet. We have Grant. We're about to probably have our next meeting. We'll bring one more bus purchase to you, but that could be 2 more years from now. So we may not see these buses for till 2024 or 25. So it's a pretty dire situation. Nick, do you want to jump in on the, I think this slide shows kind of how it's Nick's slide. It shows how our cost per mile rises as these buses get old and become,
Come up here so I can see it.
okay.
I can see it. All right. All right. Let me see what we're looking at here.
That's a 22 one instead of full year's worth of data.
So this is the 22 fiscal year.
Yeah.
All right. So as we can see, our cost per miles for the E450s are, a little better than any of the other platforms. That's one of the reasons we're choosing to go with Ford. On the major component side, when we order a engine for one of these E450s, they come complete. So I paid one fee and I have everything I need to put the engine in. So that's another benefit for using the E450s. And we're running about $3,100 for an engine right now. With the Chevys, we were at about $3,500, and there was still a bunch of other gaskets and stuff like that we had to purchase.
And real quick to jump in with, I'm thinking of tidbits that they might be wanting to know. So under our contract with First Transit, so Nick West is our maintenance guy, only one. We're going to get to that in a minute. But under our contract, First Transit is responsible for all the parts and labor. So if something we're doing or the industry or act of God or whatever, if something's going on that causes our vehicles to be much older, that really impacts them and Nick personally. But major components we do cover. So if the repair, what's our dollar threshold now, like on a rear end or a transmission or
Well, the
so
way
those major things he passes through to us.
Right.
Otherwise we'd be paying way more per hour because the risk would be all on them. So we handle the major component failures, and unfortunately, as these age, those become more frequent.
right, I don't know how many of you guys were here when I got here. We had to go through the entire
few that would get here within 6 months. And it's a Zep, it's a zero. You make it from a vehicle, yeah.
Would that require, you to go to special training to work on it?
Oh, yes, yes. And depending on how deep into it, they would have me get, involves more and more training. So for example, I was talking about how you can repair a battery. If we went that far, it would require a lot more training for me as well.
On those buses where they. You don't have to do oil changes.
There's still a certain amount of oil changes and fluids that need to be serviced on a regular basis, but you're going to do a lot more with the electrical side, making sure that there's no damage to wires and harnesses so that we don't have parasitic draws on the electrical system.
Did you want to talk about the sad, we probably gotta speed things up, but do you want to talk about the Forest River thing and?
Okay, so we've run into a few issues with our current fleet. We like the Champion low floor bus and we like the Eldorado coaches, or cutaway buses that we have. The problem is that Forest River bought the manufacturer of those products. And it sounds like they're currently in the process of dissolving those agencies, those manufacturers. So any parts that we're trying to get are severely slowed, if at all possible. I've got a couple of parts I've had on order for well over a year now that I'm just gonna have to find another source or have them made.
I think we touched on this.
Like more done.
Oh, no, no. Some of the
Sometimes they make parts
stuff that,
for engines, right? Bigger engines.
He's got a machine shop. that he can-
Yeah,
that's full of me, yeah. But I think when you're talking about this manufacturer, you're taking a van from Ford, cutting it off at the back of the cabin, and completely manufacturing that back part where people sit. The
correct,
wheelchair ramps and everything from frame up, so.
correct. There's actually about 20 different vendors that build stuff for the backside or the passenger sit. So where we can get parts from other vendors, we're doing that, but there are certain things that are built by the manufacturer and we're having trouble getting those. That leads to the other problem that we're having with getting buses. That's slowed the industry down a lot. So it doesn't matter what chassis we use. We've got all the orders are coming from one manufacturer. The MV1, the little marshmallow thing that you see driving around, they quit building it. The entire manufacturer went away. That was built by Mobility Ventures, which is a subsidiary of AM General, a company that builds the Humvees for the Army. They built it for about 5 years, 6 years, and they quit after that. It was a great vehicle. It's perfect for what we use it for. So that segues into some other stuff that we were wanting to do about trying to find some used ones.
Right, so we've been getting desperate, and as this slide kind of shows some of our desperation in bullet form. Nick calls me up back in like July, June last summer. And we talked about this, he goes, go to this website, and check it out. So we found some recently freshly retired buses from Orange County Transit that were available on this like online auction deal, kind of like eBay, but different. That were available, and I believe First Transit's got a piece of the OCTA contract. So,
We operate the Orange County contract, or at least a good portion of it. And this came from their dial ride services.
So Nick knew they were pretty well maintained because he knows those guys that are performing that duty down in OC. So we went ahead and picked up one, bid on it. It was It was fun. We got it for like, what, $8,000 or so, but then getting it up here was a couple more. And then Nick's been working on getting it ready to transform from being an OCTA paratransit bus to a bus we can use in our service. So that's taken a few months. And now it's about ready, 222 is about ready to go into service.
No,
How close are we?
we're still waiting on parts. Again,
Yeah,
the
that's
industry.
another problem.
I'm trying to create something that wasn't there before. So they can't go and search the VIN number and pull up a part. I'm actually having to figure all that stuff out. There's a lot of ADA requirements that this bus didn't have because we are fixed route. PAs, destination signs, chime cords. Those are all things that I've had to figure out and get installed in that vehicle. So if you guys have time, I can show you. It's in working progress.
So just say, oh, go buy something used, which you may tell us that at the end anyway, but just going to buy used vehicles doesn't mean we can snap our fingers and put them in service the next week. We got to get them here and then we have to make sure they'll work. Now, the OCTA buses were para only, so that's caused a lot of the work Nick's talking about. If we happen to find some cutaways that were available that had been used in fixed route, that would mean they'd have the head sign like we use the chime cords and stuff. That would help. So we could go down that road, but the first one we got was not. And soon it'll be ready. Parts, if we can get the parts in, it'll go into service here, in the first half of 23. But we're kind of looking at what else could we do. So if you go down to the next bullet on the slide, we retired a couple low floor Chevys. They were 09s. They're still here in the yard. So we retired them just after we surplus the last group of boneyard buses.
So when we got unit 230 and 231 in late of 2019, we retired units 289 and 290. They're the 2009 Chevy 4500 Express chassis. It's a low floor. All of our ridership loves the low floor. It's not the best platform because it's one of their first generation vehicles. But it would work if we needed to, figure out a solution to deal with our current bus crisis.
Right, we'd have to replace some rust and rot stuff.
Back to the used one that you picked up for $8,000
Yeah.
plus you to get it here plus some parts.
Yeah.
What's a new one cost?
They're
175.
177 is what we paid for 230 and 231, and we still had to do a bunch of stuff to it to try to save some money in the process. Destination sign runs about $8-10 grand. Camera systems are $7,000-8,000. So we were able to repurpose from old retired buses, and we saved a bunch of money for the agency that way.
That's good. What was the mileage on the used one?
It's 221,000 miles.
Oh,
However, I do know the agency has replaced the engine at some point. Exactly what miles, I don't know.
In a similar vein, the other day, we were searching the internet and we found 2 of the MV1s that are for sale with pretty low mileage. That was interesting. So we could, because the vehicle's been discontinued, but like Nick said, it really was a home run as far as design for the purpose of paratransit. You can't beat those things. So if the board thinks it's not a bad idea, we could try to acquire 1 or 2 of those MV1s that are still available, like on the open market. Was it eBay we saw them? I don't know, some sort of
Fernando.
Carfax, that's right. So it was on one of the online car sales places. And it was, what did they want for them?
So one of them had 13,000 miles, they only wanted 20,000, and then there was another one for 15,000 miles, they wanted like 23,
Yeah,
relatively cheap.
relatively cheap.
Right.
Yeah,
that seems like a good deal for the low miles.
yeah, and they're perfect for dial ride. So then we'd have 3 vehicles dedicated to dial ride. How often do we ever need a bigger vehicle? How often do we really put a cutaway on the paratransit? We don't.
We only put a cutaway on the paratransit services when I have to down
When
that
the other one
unit.
goes in the shop. So that could be good. So we could pursue that. It's like, this is a bizarre area in the history of transit. It's like, you don't usually do that. One problem is we can't spend any of our like federal grant money doing this because they don't let you buy used vehicles. So it would have to be our reserves, which are kind of cleaner money, which that's what we would use for something like we did with the OCTA.
Where are they located?
One was up near my son in New England and the other was in like Chicago or something.
No, the other one was in Southern
Oh, the
California.
weather was in Southern, that's right. Southern California one and maybe Maine was the other one.
Yeah.
So the one in Maine, I go to Boston a lot because my kid goes to school there, so I could probably get a look at it over there on one of these trips.
Road trip, drive it back.
Exactly.
Just gotta give them a credit card to pay for it.
Right. Yeah, that's the hardest part. We don't, yeah, I don't.
Always wanted to drive a bus across country.
Absolutely. Who hasn't? Who hasn't?
Makes it fun.
Anyway, so I don't know what else, anything that we didn't cover. So one of the other things is I think Joey mentioned this earlier, that we are on our path to comply with CARB and go electric. So another thing is that even if this Ford chassis thing continues to drag on for years and years, it doesn't seem to affect some of these electric bus vehicle manufacturers. So like Green Power is able to deliver in like 4 months or so. They're saying,
Yeah, they're-
they're
One-
keeping up with production. They're not affected by Ford or GM's or GM or any of that.
Right, when I was doing the research, they said 4 to 6 months was their average turnaround. And of course, that depends on the number of orders they have in front of us. If they get a big order, they could, that could be delayed a little bit.
Our deal is we have
Power
to-
a bottom up design or are they using a Ford chassis? or-
No, they are
Yeah.
ground up
Ground
design.
up, good.
So their vehicle is actually balanced for the best use of the battery.
So our critical path problem with those is we need to get our yard charging system built before we can run. We could get 6 of them tomorrow, but what would we do with them? Right, so that's kind of the deal is
Got a
we,
beachfront. Park them in the park.
we need to stay on the project to construct our
There
yard.
you go.
Is that different than the Tesla charging? system?
Yes.
Kind of the same idea, but.
That would be like Walmart.
Yeah.
Actually, you're not wrong.
Yeah.
I did charge the 2 units that I tested, I did charge them at Walmart.
They're expensive though.
It was 42 cents a kilowatt hour. The first bus I charged was 350 kilowatts. And I used 60% of that charge to get down to our Eureka to the next charging station. And I spent 2.5 hours recharging it. And I only got about 50% charge. I had just enough to get back.
This is the way that we're going, is towards these kind of buses.
Well, that one was an actual 40-foot transit bus that we tested, trying to find a solution to the problem. That one, because they put all the weight at the top of the bus, it was too top heavy for our environment.
That wasn't the Green Power bus.
No.
We put in the Teresa.
No, the green power bus, they put their batteries down low. And they handle very well. They actually handle better than these cutaways. And it's a 118 kilowatt battery and it charges in about an hour, just over an hour. And it only uses 50% charge going here to Arcata.
What kind of average is the charge? 30 or 50?
I don't know the amperage. I just know that when we charged, it saw as high as 65 kilowatt hours.
When you order one of these buses or multiple, are they road ready when they show up? Or is
Yes.
it Still a pile of signage and everything else you have to do with it.
They would be ordered, ready to go, with the exception of maybe a 2-way radio, fare box,
Couple of them.
decal. Actually,
No,
to
the
get
decals
decals,
should come
we get
with.
those done.
Yeah, we'll send them the logo.
So it'd be very little that I have to do.
And then what's the cost to charge them?
Well, if we took it to Walmart, it'd be 42 cents a kilowatt hour. What is here, we're still in the trying to work that out with
It would be whatever. the
Pacific Power.
Right,
Charges, which is between 13 and 18 cents a kilowatt.
right. I think cheaper in the late at night. So we would,
Well, that's right, yeah, that's right.
we're gonna look at an array of chargers, but probably the lion's share of the chargers will be the slow chargers they plug in all night. Because they get the cheaper rate and they're also just cheaper to
Mhm.
buy. The fast chargers are like more premier, like you see at the Tesla and at the parking lot. They're faster, but they cost more and, yeah, if you do it during the day, they're gonna.
But actually, the phone charges that are on the battery.
Yeah.
Yes,
Slow charger, yeah, it is.
Maybe we could have one that's hooked to the diesel generator and that'd be cheaper. You buy diesel rather than electric.
with that being said, we are trying to figure out backup power.
Yeah, we,
Yes.
yeah, we're going after a grant for that or?
Absolutely, yeah, we're really fortunate, we've been kind of amassing a little teeny grant every time it comes in for 3 years now. And it's up to over $150,000. Is that a lot? No.
No.
No, that
But
might
it's
pay
something.
for the charging station.
We
Or
might be able to
the
get
switch gear for it.
Power and the transformer to that point. How much we'll still have left to do the trenching and the rest that we need there, that's gonna be expensive too.
Yeah.
But we've at least got some money in there that we can tease other grantors.
Yeah.
Okay, we've got this, we need you to help us. So we've got a charging system, because we don't have it without.
Yeah, we included in the Tersa grant, no, there's no guarantee we get funded this year, on that, but we included like 4 million for this construction of this electric charging system in this property and the lot. And there's a lot to it. Once we get it in the ground, we want to pave the lot finally.
Sure.
Yeah.
there's a-
Yeah, we
things
gotta,
that need
we
to
gotta
be done.
deal with the water runoff so that we don't have water pooling around charging areas. We don't wanna have a driver standing there and plug it in and. So,
Let's shift gears to the staffing. How do you want to do this one? We didn't rehearse as you.
Yeah.
You can't tell.
all right, so. As we get with the higher miles on these buses, I have a couple that are at 400,000 miles. I've got buses that are over 300,000 miles. We're getting into a lot more of time consuming repairs. And a lot more frequent repairs. Some of the other industry issues with reliability on parts has been plaguing us as well. So we're spending a lot of time just trying to keep up. We're currently at 1 in 13. So I'm one person fixing 13 buses and the 4 support vehicles that we have.
Right, I forgot to. It's really.
We have a lot of rust and rot issues. It's affecting our paint and everything else. So I do everything bumper to bumper. So our company looks at contracts for 1 tech for every 7 buses. And I've been doing 1 in 13. So we're looking at trying to bring some extra help in here. Help lighten my workload.
So we reached out to First Transit to price what a second, what we're gonna call like assistant technicians.
A tech assist.
Tech assist, yeah. So what it would cost, halftime would be like 50 grand out the door and full-time about 75. So, we digested that and figured we'd talk to you guys about it. What that would, we've already, and for the new board members, it's tough, so I don't want to go too fast, but in the last few years to get through the pandemic, and it actually was just long overdue, we've increased our labor costs and our cost, which means our cost per hour of service have went way up. But which is good though. We have, we've stayed in business, which has been not a given in the last 3 years. And we've actually thrived. We're getting a decent flow of applications in and folks, our staffing crisis is abated, which is great. So the downside of this is we'd be piling on to an already recently increased cost per hour thing, which is not good. It probably, so currently our costs are probably in the $110 or $20 an hour of service range. That's because it might be down a little. We'll see how the audit's coming in for our next meeting. Last year it was about at that because we had cut service during the pandemic, so it might drop because the more service we put out, the less per hour, divides it out. But anyway, let's say we're for sure over 100 per hour now, and just a few years ago it was like 60 something. So it's went up significantly, like 50% or so. And most of that's been increased labor costs, which is fine. I'm glad we've done it, but do we want to add any more? I guess that's a question to the board. What would the magnitude of a $75,000 increase do to us? Well, we run about 16,000 revenue hours per year. So it would add like $4 an hour to our cost structure. Or $4 per revenue hour, I should say.
But are you having to work overtime now to maintain the vehicle?
Yes, yes.
The First Transit's absorbing that. See, so that's like you get this wrinkle of privatization in there that First is absorbing that. Because we're partnering and helping by buying a lot of the extra costs and stuff that it's tough. Yeah, we don't see all those costs.
The agency is taking on some of that as well with our special projects that are outside normal contract. For example, 222, our OCTA bus, the agency is actually covering my overtime for that bus and a lot of our parts costs as well.
Right, if we resurrect one of those retired ones from a few years ago, we would pay you for that as well. So that's kind of probably, I think the enclosure of this presentation, that's something for you guys to think about is, should we consider, as we're budgeting for 23-24, so we'll be back with a preliminary budget for you at the end of March, then we'll have to adopt in May or June. Should we add for that second position? What I want you guys to think of is, we didn't do it this fiscal year, but I still want us, I believe a year ago when we were at this spot, I showed the idea of a summer platform that was our best service. And then a reduction for the wet, cold months. Not a big reduction, but that would save us some money in the long run. I believe I'd have to dust off the presentation, but we pull like one trip to Arcata out each day and one trip to Gasky out and leave still a morning and afternoon trip. But that would save collectively maybe enough to offset this technician position, for example. So I don't know if I would support doing it unless we're going to go to that seasonal summer, high level of service summer and a little reduced in the winter. I just don't think we can sustain it forever. I don't want to do something that we have to cut later because of. That's
Well, I'd
where
like to
where I
see
think about it.
what that looks like.
Okay.
And then also the savings on overtime versus hiring, if we were to hire somebody and take some of that overtime off of them.
What is our deadlines for our electrification of our fleet? Is it 30 or 30?
Yeah, I think 2030, we have to buy all ZEBs.
We have to be having all them by 2030?
No, have to purchase all.
After purchase
Right,
them?
so the ones can still be working through their life cycle and
Okay.
continuing to work. But
But
we can't buy any new.
my understanding is the entire fleet should be all electric by 2040.
Yeah.
Nothing left.
So we still got, I was thinking, that's gonna kind of relieve you from engine jobs, obviously, so, you know, but still, that's quite a ways in the future, so, yeah.
You know, one thing you gotta think about when the contract comes up for renewal, there's gonna be a hell of a lot more to charge for a technician because of all the classification.
Yeah,
So what you guys are paying now for next wage might be double. Just because of all the classes he's gonna have to take and all the new tools he's gonna have to buy just to maintain the electric buses as well.
yeah, I am gonna have to almost pretty much retool completely. And I'm gonna become an electrical engineer rather than a mechanic, so.
That's good. You can help us with the charging stuff.
So in the budget, are you going to start introducing training costs?
They'll have to talk to First Transit about that.
That-
I mean, what we need to have something on order first to know it's coming, but we could.
Is there no type of warranty on these things?
There is a warranty from the manufacturer. I'm not 100% positive what that is off the top of my head.
It's like 1 year and then you can purchase a couple additional maybe, or 2
I
years.
thought it was 3 years.
Oh, nice, that'd be good.
But like I said, I'd have to go back to my notes and look at it again. That was something that I wanted to have ready for this meeting, was more information on that, but I haven't been able to put any timeline to it. It was, this meeting would have been a good meeting for that, but.
Why not? You only have 13 months.
Yeah.
Yeah, we just spent $36,000 of the agency's money, and it went down 2 days after it got back.
Yeah, we
So-
dropped a boat, well, there was 2 of them.
Yes, that we spent, so that you guys are aware, we have 2 engines that we were just replaced on our 2 Freightliners. They were $36,000 a piece. 2 engines.
Agency, not First Transit.
Correct, correct. The agency paid for that one.
Then you said it went down right afterwards?
Yeah, we have had a transmission control module fail.
The engine's still good.
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
Oh, yeah. If not, it would have been under warranty and they'd had to do the job again. So they've got a great warranty, it's 3 years, 100,000 miles. Anything goes on with that engine, they take care of it.
And who does those?
Cummins engines.
So we ship it to Eureka or
Arcata.
Arcade?
I just call them back out and they'll come diagnose it, figure out what's going on, and if it needs to go to the shop, then they'll pay all the towing costs and everything to get it there.
This should help those 2 buses last a couple, 3 more years, which looks like this situation's gonna take that long to unwind. But the rust and rot to the chassis continues. That doesn't stop. So we repowered it, but you know, we can't get forever out of these vehicles in this climate, that's for sure.
Didn't they know about that grant?
Which grant?
Rehab.
At some point they did, but no, it's not on the docket to talk about today.
Okay.
No, we've hit them with enough bad news.
All right.
Okay, anything else? We went way over in this one, but it was,
That grant.
we did get the grant, and within that is where a couple of the buses that we're buying came from, but we also had some money in there to do a midlife overhaul rehab, which would have included the 2 new engines plus, total plus more parts and stuff. But it took Caltrans like 2 years to execute it, and by that time, then we didn't get any bids. And it's like the vehicles are beyond midlife overhaul now, they're too rusted out, so it would be stupid throwing good money after that. So that part of the grant, we're just getting back. All right, thanks, Nick. We're gonna move on to the next exciting, no topic's gonna be as exciting as that, but
Thank you.
No problem.
thank you, Nick. Should have you do this next one too.
Nope. The next one's all you, but.
Oh, my gosh. Just because I know you guys are interested in this item and our consultant is AWOL. I'm gonna go ahead and go through this and do the best I can with this. This is Mark Schaefer. He's been busy working on this project, and I talked to him. I know he was having some trouble. He was traveling with his kids this weekend or something, so maybe, with the weather, maybe something happened. Yeah, but anyway, so Mark's been working on this. We've had a couple of Zooms with community members and stuff. This is our first update to the board on the project. So I believe it was green lighted back in like November. And this is phase 1 with the idea that this is a decision point for the board. If we like the direction it's going and feel phase 2 is necessary, then we'll continue. If it looks like there's no market, no project, then we can shut her down. That's how we set it up anyway. So that's what we're here to talk about today. So this idea of this project's all around the idea of transportation to medical, and specifically what came to Tamara's annual unmet transit needs hearing a couple of times in the past, and again in 2022, is that there's a need to go to Southern Oregon to medical specialists that are not accessible by we don't have any route currently that goes there. We only go as far as Gasky with Route 199. Southwest Point out of Oregon does go there, but their schedule they adopted a couple of years ago is extremely hard to use. So that there was possibly a need in the community. So at this unmet transit needs hearing, I was talking to a board member from the healthcare district, very interested in this and feels it's a need also. So they offered to partner with us and put in some money on this study. So the study's funded 50-50 between the district, the healthcare district, and ourselves. Out of our CTSA pot of money, which is, sorry about the alphabet soup, but we have like a new silo of programs called CTSA that's about 3 years old here, which is a portion of our TDA money, but it has a little bit more freedom within that portion to do stuff to help like senior and specialized transportation, and which this fits pretty good into. So the study's meant to assess the needs. If there is really a market for this, it's not being met by other entities. And then we also wanted to look at if a lot of referrals were going to Humboldt County, and if so, why maybe are not more of them riding the Route 20 that we already provide down that direction. So Mark got started. He pulled and did a lot of interviews over the phone and Zoom with our medical facilities and our practitioners up here in Del Norte County to get an idea about the referral process, how many in which direction and which specialties. He talked to reached out to current transportation providers as much as he could get a hold of them, and found out that there are some options under the Medi-Cal program, but not everyone qualifies for that. And some of those providers are actually our local taxis, but they get reimbursed through a separate program through Medicare. So that's their deal. We don't want to infringe upon that, but it seems like there's still market beyond that. So this is just a list of existing providers that do some transportation in these two corridors. As you all know, we have very limited medical services here in the county, unfortunately. So some of these specialties have to be obtained outside the area. Either
transportation to Curry Health Network.
Well, Route 20 goes to we have time connections 4 times a day at Lucky 7 to the Coastal Express. They go takes them into Brookings.
People that are going up there.
I
know that Curry Health Network has neurologists.
Okay.
And then Brookings has a lot of imaging.
And
We have 2 orthopedic surgeons at Sutter here locally. So they don't have to go out from the area for orthopedics
okay.
unless they want to. Just so you know.
Okay, let me highlight that. This again, that's not my presentation. Okay, so then yeah, but we did check into the Brookings is similar to Arcata in that and Humboldt County providers. There is a service there. It may be an information gap, or maybe they live too far from where our buses board and they can't get to the vehicle to start with, because we do have a time connection. And I believe Curry Transit has a stop about a block away from their hospital in Brookings. So I think it's doable, but maybe there's an information gap. This is what Mark found so far. He found 251 referrals a month to going northeast towards Grants Pass and Medford. Some of those were Medi-Cal though, and those are being met through that process, but not all, as you see. And 300 referrals a month were reported going south to Eureka. And a few of those were Medi-Cal as well, but 236 were not. So the majority of both numbers potentially might have a need for the service. He's just spitballing, but if 30% of those that are being referred and not covered by Medi-Cal would consider using the shuttle, that would, you know, at 2 days a month, we'd have like 7 riders a day or 8 riders a day, which would be more than enough, I think, to call this a success and pursue it a little further. So some of his recommendations so far, obviously, we need to decide if we want to dig any further in this. Phase 2 would be developing an actual model, because I think we have 2 different things going on. depending on the direction, because we already run service that we're not going to compete with ourselves going to Eureka. So what do we need to change about what Route 20 does in order to make it attractive and make it meet the needs of these folks with medical appointments? So for example, if you look at, I mean, I'm no Eureka expert, but I've started digging into it a little bit lately. We've been asked to extend to their transit center, which I think is at like 3rd and H in Old Town, downtown there. But the medical facilities are nowhere near those. The medical facilities are up in like Harris and like in a semicircle up on the hill. So one of the options would be put a little loop tail on the route. And after we get into town, go hit those hospital facilities and then finish at the transit center. You know, we're looking at just adding, 20 minutes running time or something each way to our bus. Good Lord.
That's the one that already has an hour layover or whatever.
Yeah, it is, right. So we'd have to rejigger that. We're still gonna need to keep that layover though, because eventually we're gonna have these electric buses that'll need to charge while we're down there, but we also have driver lunches and stuff. So we kind of need to keep that either way you look at it. It's helpful to allow that driver some recovery break time down there. Or maybe we can do a partnership where HTA Dollar Ride or something would pick someone up. I don't want to just, they have a route that goes up to the medical facilities once an hour, and we could see if we could time into that perfectly, but that's tough to do on a once an hour service. So anyway, we'll look at all those options. If we decide to move to phase 2, how could we tweak the 20? On this end, we may need to have a dollar ride element to it before it leaves town. If people aren't using it because they can't get to the cultural center, or, I mean, we do a path all the way through town. Maybe they're too far from Walmart, too far from cultural center. So maybe we need to do a little more personalized, picking up people at their homes, getting them to the bus, and then taking them as a group down to Humboldt. So those are some options we would look at if we move ahead. On the Grants Pass side, it's probably got to be a new service because we don't have anything now. And, we'll try to talk ODOT into fixing their schedule, but I don't know about that. So this could be a new shuttle service that's door to door on our end, and then on that end to the medical facilities. We threw shopping in there. You may have noticed the word shopping a couple of times. If we want to open this up and ensure there's more bodies and more butts in the seats, we might want to open it up to more than just medical trip taking. If someone wants to go for other purposes, they could, or maybe connecting to the airport, like at Rogue Valley Airport there. But that's something we could work on in phase 2, the details of the program, and then a marketing plan if whatever we decide we're going to need to promote it. So this is where we're at today. If we want to move to phase 2 or not, we can officially approve it next month, but you guys can give me direction here so we can keep Mark busy. And then he'll be working on a plan to modify the 20 and develop a pilot route going into Oregon. One of the cool things that came out of this is he believes we should have a call center here. I mean, we do already, but right now you look it up, you have to look up Redwood Coast Transit and call. This could be maybe even a different number that would be, but the heart of the matter would be when you call, we would provide information on all sorts of transportation, not just what we currently do. So it would, as the rubber meets the road, we would educate our dispatch staff more on all these other services that are out there. So when a rider calls in, maybe they would find out what the needs are and then refer them somewhere else if there's other transportation to meet their needs instead of us. So it's more like a one-stop information shop. So he thinks we should establish that no matter what we do with this. It'd be a good CTA. It's a very popular CTSA project statewide, is the call center. There it is. There's Mark's contact
Thank you, Mark,
information.
for the presentation.
Yeah. Don't tell him how bad I butchered it. Any questions that I might be able to answer?
I think you hit on all the points that we talked about previously.
Seems like there's market enough to at least pursue a little further. I've been a part of a couple of the Zooms. We took our advisory group meeting. I'm really having trouble getting that group off the ground. It's like the Wright brothers of Idiot. But anyway, I did feed that name. So that's been on Mark's stakeholders list. And then he's added 3 folks that have inquired since then. And then the healthcare district's very interested. I believe I hope I got to get a hold of him. He's supposed to present to them tomorrow night at their meeting because they want to get an update on this as well. So the idea was each of us kicked in, I believe, 20 grand for the study. If we could keep that commitment, maybe increase it a little to 25, it'd probably be enough to fund like a 2-day-a-week service next year. If we, if we go there, we don't want to, obviously don't want to start a study and not have the money to pay for the service. So, assuming the healthcare district stays in, we could probably do 2 days a week. If not, probably be limited to 1.
What is the advisory committee you're listening to?
We've been trying to, everybody has, including myself, has whined about the lack of community interest and input on our CTA, among like the social service agencies and the tribes and everyone else. So, and Tamara didn't want to expand the role of the social service agents, the SS TAC that she has, but we used the same guest list from that. And we invited them to, we had our first meeting like 2 months ago. It was right after Mark, and Mark was the guest speaker. And we kicked off the project with a meeting with them. I think maybe 4 people came, 3 or 4 was on Zoom. We offered to have it in person and, have food too, but that hasn't happened yet. And we're going to try it again at the next meeting on March 27th. Hopefully it was our next meeting. We'll do it at like lunch, and make it a lunchtime thing. And then hopefully we get some better, attendance, but so far it hasn't been real good. But yeah, it's just mainly, it's not an official board committee. It could be made one if you guys wanted to later, but it's just to try to get some more community input and find out what everyone else is doing. I felt that the left hand doesn't know what the right hand is doing around here, which is really weird in a small town. But we wanted to open up that communication with,
Remind me if our CT is a nonprofit.
we're a joint powers authority of the government, So not exactly a nonprofit.
Some of that information could qualify for PSAs if they're in decision.
Yeah, that would be good.
So I don't think we've had any communication from our CT for, I can't even remember how long.
We have been very quiet, but we got something going with you guys now. We started it maybe a couple months ago with
Yeah.
what's the
Bi-coastal.
oh yeah, right. And
That's where I work.
yeah, that's where she
Yeah.
worked. What's your salesman, the guy's name?
The guy and
yeah.
Larry.
Yeah, Larry.
Okay,
Yeah, Larry. So Larry's got a small deal with us, but I'd be interested in expanding it and talking to him more.
well, this PSA stuff, when you're having public meetings,
Mhm.
can be just something we can get out.
Yeah, that would be great.
One of the things that Mark mentioned is our high school students. If we start servicing the mall up in Room Valley, we're gonna have a lot of high schoolers that are gonna wanna go there. We're talking about a decent layover that we would be there. They could do shopping at the mall and then get back on the bus and head home. I mean, that's one thing no one has around here. Kids can't just jump in a bus and go to the mall. If we started doing this for the summer.
Is there a age limit on that? Or, no?
Typically, we say as long as
a
they
minor
can
just on the
travel,
bus
they
and
can-
across
Yeah.
state line? I wouldn't mind that.
My child didn't get the phone call. Dad, this is the bus.
Okay, I'll pick you up where you at, Medford.
Bus numbers and stuff and possibly drivers to even make those trips possible.
I think so. If we did it like on Tuesdays and Thursdays, for example, yeah, we could put another bus out. We have
What's
enough
our go, no go ridership? What, you talked about the 30% of the polled people, if they were to ride, it'd be 7 or 8 per trip, and that was doable. I'm just kind of curious, what
Yeah,
would be the point where you go, nope, not worth it?
it's a good question. Haven't thought too much about that. Depending on the fare we charge, one thing we could do is we could kind of fall back against the standard that we're judged in as a whole, even though CTSA has more freedom, but if we could recover 10% of the cost by fares, that's a minimum. So if we're doing better than that, if you back that out, if the trip costs like, $500 a day to provide, I'm just pulling numbers out of the air.
Sure.
Then we would, if we could recoup 50 in fares or more, that might be considered successful in a rural area. That's the standard they hold our whole system to. Yeah, 90% subsidy is considered success in the rural area. It might get more, statewide, people are missing their fare box recovery badly right now. It's gonna be an issue for our agency in the future, I'm
Another
afraid.
resource you can reach out to for, just like a direct line of communication on seniors that are needing medical appointments, might be that area one agency on aging.
Yeah, they attended one of the meetings.
Did they? Okay.
Forget the guy's name, but yeah, he's on the list. So he's become a stakeholder in the project and he seemed real interested, yeah. Yeah, I remember seeing him on the Zoom. I think we had the Zoom last Tuesday. And we had like a half dozen people. He was one of them.
The Vets Hall was another one. They have a hospital at White City.
I heard about that, yeah. How far is White City off the beaten path from Medford though? It's a little ways, isn't it? Not too far, okay.
It's like right down the road.
Okay. Okay, that's good to hear. I saw that come up in the research. Yeah, Mark got a breakdown on the VA referrals. A lot go to Eureka. But yeah, some were going to White Center, some go to Brookings, depending on what they needed.
And I'm actually supposed to go to Roseburg if I have anything.
That's a little bit out of the way. I like Roseburg though, but yeah, it's amazing. Okay, well, it's getting late. Any more questions on this one? Being as this didn't go quite as planned, do you guys want to get another update on this next meeting? Or can we give him the green? Do we want to move to phase 2 and just get started on options, or what do you think? I think phase 1 was like 10-12,000, so it's about half and half. It's like another 10-12. Something like that. I wanted, man, maybe it's a little lot more than that.
Not familiar, is it in the budget?
Yeah, we budgeted for the whole study, yeah. It's in the budget.
I would move to approve moving forward with the study and having the funding work out with the health district.
Okay, great, we'll do that. We might put it on the agenda for official action next month. And an update, if Mark's available, we'll bring him in and have him, by then we might have some new information to share.
We need to vote on that, or are we just getting a consensus that we're?
I think a consensus, yeah, I don't think we had it as an action item, we better not. We're also an agency without an attorney. Yeah, let's not do motions.
It has to do with. But if it's
But it
not on
wasn't
the
advertised,
agenda,
right?
then-
Yeah, no. So we'll put it in on the agenda in March and we'll let him,
We hadn't already voted on phase 2 prior.
no, we have not. We were gonna get this presentation and receive it and give him direction.
It's better agenda.
Yep, we'll put it on in March and maybe Mark can join us. Dan and I have one, so you're up, Dan.
Okay, yeah, try to do it in 10 minutes.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
be able to. But if anyone wants to look deeper at the financial numbers, just tell our secretary, let's get you out a set of rights themselves. Do you want to handle it?
Yeah, I'll drive for you.
Okay. Basically, this time of year, we'd like to look backwards and forwards. Very soon, you're gonna be doing, taking a look at the budget for next year. So it's real handy to find out how we're doing. Let's look backwards, okay. We're 58% through the year, that's like 7/12 of the year is expended. Only the two in red are slightly over the 58% expended. In other words, they're running a little rich. The rest of them are below, and I'll shoot to the bottom line of $1,007,000 budget. We have actually cost $929,000 so far. So we're 6% underspent at this point.
Is the administrative cost that's a little bit over, is that overtime?
No, that's our time, but with the transit center project,
Transit
it's
center project.
been all encompassing. So yeah, we put more time in because
Right,
of that.
and some of our difficulties, we mentioned the fact that the standard contracts just aren't there. We submitted 7 applications last year, and we don't even have a standard contract for the one that we're operating on right now. So it's time that they acted. There's been a lot
Caltrans,
a bulge, if you will, of administrative time. We don't see it as a problem.
It's true. So not only the transit center, which has kept me busy, but
Yeah.
Dan's been busy requesting money on these RFRs, requests for
RFR.
reimbursements for Caltrans for our federal money.
So.
Oh, you want to go back?
Well, just real quick, what are the challenges? That's okay.
There we go. Sorry.
Maintenance costs are increasing drastically. You can see our maintenance. Gee, we were well under 20% under. Then we dropped 2 engines.
Yeah,
So
it's not going to be under
it's not
anymore.
gonna be under anymore. New vehicles.
Yeah, the water. No, hard to have project.
It looks
Yeah.
like fuel's not even close.
No.
Is that-
No, fuels. Yeah,
Yeah, we will have to be adjusting that next time when you see the actual budget for next year. New vehicles ordered, no delivery forecast. Next slide, please. What about 10 years down in the future? What about even 5 years down the road? Welcome thing that we got that we didn't expect to get was more COVID money. The COVID money goes all the way out to 2028. It's to help us not only protect people through the COVID period, but to rebuild transit ridership and belief that it can happen. Transportation funds, hi, Mark. Few more minutes.
we should have put him last, Dan.
Transportation development funds also increase every year, 5% a year. Doesn't sound like a lot. You add up the compounding of that, and in 10 years, it'll be 150% of what we got right now. That's our best source of revenue. Transportation funds will go through into a little bit more. The state and federal funding favors electric bus, and we're moving in that direction. So that might help. Right now, it's mostly capital, and it's just not tuned for the smaller operations. They're going for the metros first. We don't even have a mechanism to scoop out that money right now. Where possible, the fund reserve, we do have a small fund reserve that we like to keep in TDA money. That's very good for the agency to have a little in there. We feel that the COVID will help us build back that reserve fund. And the challenge, of course, we said higher costs in the contract, and if we lose one grant, we may have to cut the services to Arcata. Our ridership, we don't know. It may or may not recover. Moving on. Okay, this is the slide that surprised us. We knew that we had some money coming in to actually help mitigate the sickness itself. But the way they kept working it, more and more money has come in. We have 2,500,000 that we can go after in COVID rebuilding. Let's not call it recovery, but it's rebuilding ridership money. And that goes out all the way to 2028. So we're really pretty happy with that.
No, we can't claim it all at once because it has to be, you can't match federal with federal. So it actually works out that each year we have about 300,000-400,000 in unmatched expenses. So that's what we'll be, so we'll claim it like in chunks of 400,000 a year for 5 or 6 years.
That's really going to help. And also, we're going to continue with all the small grants. I mentioned a thing called LC Top. That's 150,000 we can do tomorrow on energy upgrade at the yard, but you got to do it the right way. Coordinative, we've had a very profitable coordination with DMLTC, and the far north roundtable is a bunch of other folks, small providers like ourselves, that are helping us go after money. And a few others, CalAct, Caltrans, all want to help us. They know some of the difficulties are out there. But This is TDA.
This is a big
they
one.
put two funds actually. The local transportation fund is the one I mentioned that goes up about 5% each year. In 5 years, it went up a little bit, and 10 years, you can see how it compounds, okay?
And we actually spent some money researching that, and a godsend for us, but the last 5 years, it jumped so much when internet online sales taxes started getting captured better in California. And that, that gets dumped into the old, TDA is all sales tax. It's a 1/4 cent on every dollar spent. And that is what caused the jump. Because at first we thought, is this sustainable? What the heck is this? It seems sustainable, and it's predicted to be the new norm. And it could vary a little if we have a recession and stuff, but the big jump was from better capture of online sales.
We'll keep you tuned into that one. Next one. And we had this, I want this as a homework assignment. Help us think strategically. Those of you who've been involved before, and those of you who are just coming on board. What can we do to cut costs, increase revenue, or boost efficiency, be able to provide more transit for less cost? Anyway, that's my presentation. Take it home. Isn't it?
That's the question, sure enough.
We tried to save the good news for last.
There.
After hitting them with an hour and 15 minutes of doom and gloom. Any questions about, the finances? We will try to maybe do another dive, maybe an informational item, because there's so much for the new board members to learn with the finances. But this is a great overview. Thank you for putting it together, Dan.
Yeah, if you want the slides, just let our secretary know.
And what is I think you guys mentioned this before too, about cutting the Arcata run. But I'm having a hard time adding runs to Medford. And is that the most expendable run or something? Is that why you keep talking about maybe knocking out those southerly routes?
Good
That's
point.
a lifeline. We would be very sad if we couldn't continue full operations on there. But right now, that's funded by a single federal fund that is set aside for that, to connect places where Greyhound gave up.
Okay, so that's what you're talking about, if you lost the grant.
Right. Or even on the grant we get now from, it's called 5311F as in Frank. The 5311F money now, would you say are we getting enough to fully cover the routes cost, Dan? I don't
No.
think so. No, so
No.
we're also contributing to it out of our basic budget. So if we reduce one trip, when I say kill the route, I'm talking about one trip out of 3. So that would reduce the footprint of its costs. We could still keep the grant. Assuming we have, we're going to keep applying for the grant, but it could go away. That's what it's about. Yeah.
Sure that third route.
Yeah.
Do they even have 1 or 2 riders a week?
It's at times it was really popular, but the whole route's struggling. So yeah, at times it's not popular.
I don't know the numbers for that midday Arcata right now, but I know that that's historically been our least productive.
And our newest, so that would, we instigated that like in 2018 or so, 18 or 19, a little bit before the pandemic.
Just before the pandemic, and we cut it back during the pandemic.
Right, so it's came and went. We reinstated it a year or so ago when recovery started to happen. But yeah, it's the most expendable. And it's the same with the Gasky. Right now we go out to Gasky with Route 199 3 times a day, early morning, kind of school bellish time, midday, and then late afternoon, school bellish time. And so if the midday trip went away, you could still come into town and do your errands all day. It just having that midday trip allows for quicker jaunts into town, so you could spend a half day, which is nice. But 199 is not subsidized by 53. That's purely on us. It's not paid for by the 53.
We did away with that route completely.
We cut it down to 2 trips. Yeah, so we did that during COVID, and it didn't cause much of an uproar. The ridership on 199, other than in the summer, is very paltry. Summer, it does pretty well. It's got recreational things out there to do.
What is considered pretty well? I have no idea.
For our rural service, if we're getting like 5 riders an hour or more, it's not too bad. Because the routes are long, you know, it takes like 3 hours to get out to, I think the Gasky run from Cultural Center to Gasky and back is a 3-hour trip, I want to say. No, it's an 1.5-hour trip. Arcade is 3 hours within the layover. It's like, it takes them like 2 hours or so to get their layover and 2 hours more to get back, something like that. So, yeah, I mean, it's divided by how long it is. But yeah, I think 199 has always struggled like under 3 riders an hour and stuff. It's pretty bad. You know,
You have to look at it
it's
as
a coverage road.
safety.
Yeah.
To, people out there often have nothing, not even friends who can drive them. They all just pass away.
So after phase 2, how many more phases are there? I mean,
Oh.
before that route would, you know, can you estimate like when there would be buses going there?
Okay, we've been joined by Mark. This is a good segue. So we
Unmute.
yeah, unmute. We presented your presentation as best as I could, which was, you know, not great compared to you, but we presented it, and they might have a couple of questions. One of them, Ray Altman just asked if what would come up after phase 2. So maybe give us your thoughts real quick, and thank you for joining us, Mark.
Yeah, sorry I'm late. I got held up coming from San Francisco in the rain driving back, and yeah, the key points that I'm sure Joe shared with you is looking at the potential of the Route 20 South, which right now is a major challenge with several transfers to get down to the medical facilities. And then the line to Grants Pass and Medford is really not functional. I mean, you have to spend the night, you have to come back the next day. And so that's the one with the biggest demand that if you decide to move forward, the needs are there, and you know, it can be a door-to-door service. But the key thing on both of these services is we look with RCTA about developing a call center for the community to promote all of the options. So private options, public options. We want a phone number that people call just to make it easy for them to figure out their trip, whether they have a medical appointment in Eureka or Medford or anything, even local transportation. And then we train the staff that answers the call center to have all the answers as far as what the options are. So a big part of it is then we match with that a marketing plan that promotes all the several changes that we're looking at, and we still have to look at the cost effectiveness of those if we move forward with phase 2. But the idea is we coordinate the launching of the call center, a whole new marketing plan, and just make it really easy for the residents to find out what their options are. And they're going to learn they save money by using these options, particularly with the high cost of fuel. So, what we would do in phase 2 is go into much more detail. Each of these systems, like the extension on Route 20 South, there are many options to look at. And so we'll be working with RCT staff and all the players involved, and coming up with as many alternatives as we can find, and then put a price tag to those alternatives. And again, the goal is we just want to make it easy for people to get there, or they're not going to leave their cars. They're just going to keep driving down there themselves because they're afraid they're going to be stuck somewhere. And we want to have them call us. Hey, here's what you do. We're going to drop you right off at your medical facility, And then we're gonna come back at this time and pick you up and bring you back. And maybe we even look at a way we help them get from their home to the bus at the beginning of the trip,
Yeah.
or at the end of the trip, getting back home from the bus stop. So we're gonna look at all these options. And then you as a board will decide with your staff what makes the most sense and has the best bang for our buck.
And Mark, would you say the timeline on that? So one thing we wanted to ask you now that you joined us, do you think you can come back via Zoom and the magic of Zoom late in March at our next board meeting and maybe give us another update on like maybe some findings on phase 2? We had consensus that we want to move ahead, although we do need to agendize it. So this will give you a chance to update everybody. And if that's something that you could do at the next board meeting, which is probably the 27th of March, we still got.
Yeah, definitely could do that. And part of our process is we're going to have community groups made up of medical people, transportation people, riders, anybody that's interested. We have some advocates already that joined us on the 21st of February. And so I'm going to set up the first meeting to run some of these ideas that I'll be working with the RCT staff and everybody. Because to me, this is where my background and right on my expertise working with you guys on really building cost-effective services. So I'm planning on, hopefully we can have a community meeting on March 21st, and then I'll come to your meeting on the 27th of March.
Sounds good. Any other questions for Mark? All right, we've kept these people overtime, so we're gonna skip the technology presentation at the end. We had one more. We continue to deploy technology and it continues to piss me off. So that's the basic, that's the executive summary. When it's working, it's great, and when it's not, it isn't. And but no, I make light of it, but we've got Wi-Fi on the buses now, which is cool. That's something the boards have wanted for years. We're using it to power our credit card readers, which are not quite functioning yet, but the vendor's coming in tomorrow and will be with us the rest of the week, weather permitting, to test and commission those. So we should be accepting the tap credit cards before the next board meeting. So that's exciting. But yeah, I think that's about it. I'll wrap that up. We have an item on the Dan already previewed the status of the 22-23 budget, which was our last item. We don't have we were unable to get the preliminary 23-24 ready in time today, so we will bring that to you next month.
I have a question.
We have.
What happened with the
Yes, we released the RFP for the attorney and it's due, I think, March 10th. So it's going to be on the docket for your next agenda, your next meeting at the end of March. Hopefully with some successful proposal, at least one successful proposal. So yeah, hopefully we get proposals. I reached out to the firm that, was interested in us before, and I think they're going to propose. And I reached out to like the Humboldt Bar, and so hopefully we get some others. So yep, that should be on the docket for next month.
I was wondering if, as a new board member, if I could get the current budget, and also I'd like to see what the current routes are and what the ridership looks like.
Take this.
Thank you.
Gotta take that. So Dan, are you taking notes? Okay, so we'll get that to you. You're welcome. Joey, you want a copy of that too? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and anything else you think would be for us.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that sounds good. Yeah, I wish we had an individual orientation, but yeah, I'll send you that stuff, and if we can always meet next time I'm in town, and yeah, that'd be good.
It seems like about once a year you give us a good update on what ridership is and
Yeah, the annual report's coming up.
stuff like that. So
Yeah,
you look at it and you go, what are we doing this for?
yeah. Yeah. when you see some of the regional routes, it is like, what's our main mission here? Because our local routes produce pretty good for a small town, but the regional routes are really lifelines, like Dan said. But anyway, so we should have that annual report with all that fun stat data. Should have that next month. The audit was late this year, so we wait until the numbers are audited before we present them.
I really feel like it's, piece of it is the lack of education. There's a lot of people in our community that don't know what's available.
Yeah. I think you're exactly right. And I think our type of buses make it even, they further muddy the water because some people, they're like almost like invisible, where if you saw a beautiful 40-foot new flyer, like in Portland, bus, okay. And then, but our buses are just, they'll never be that. So it's like, how can we make them more? One of the projects we're actually talking about, Sylvia, our marketing gal, she's not with us today, but we have a marketing specialist that helps us. We're going to look at like revamping the bus stop signs to be more colorful and vibrant. It's just stuff that we can do to try to enhance, elevate the image. Because I think you're right. There's like an information vacuum out there.
You city folks got another meeting for them too.
Yeah.
Yeah, during meeting at whatever time, it's 5:40.
Thank you.
And we'll meet again Monday, March 27th.
Yeah, I think so. The only issue with that is, I hear it's like Chavez holiday, so the county offices might not be available. So maybe we meet here again on the 27th. Okay. Well, we'll work it out. Does it work for?
I would have to do Zoom.
Okay.
That spring break. Scheduled to go to Great Wolf Lodge.
Oh, shoot.
Great Wolf.
Yeah.
Which Great Wolf are you going to? Centralia?
I wonder why.
Nice. I went by that the other day.
Washington is by far the best.
Well, we went to one in Colorado and it was pretty nice, but we want to try a different one.
Yeah, the one up in Marino, it wasn't that great compared to Washington.
Yeah. Washington one's the bomb. Okay. All right. We'll see you guys next month. Thank you.
So you need your chairman to sign your resolutions, right?